Trying to turn this up. I hope it's loud enough. Today we're going to be talking about the preterite tense of regular verbs. And this is a topic that we're actually going to discuss a lot more in class. So this video is going to be very short. However, I wanted to do this video to give you the basics, and there's also a Quizlet on in our class Quizlet that helps you practice answering questions in the preterite. So, like, you probably are like, what is the preterite? Well, we're going to get into it, but a little brief overview is that the preterite is one of the past tenses in Spanish. So, in English, we really only have one past tense, but in Spanish, there are two. Everything that we've learned up until now has been in the present tense. This is the first time for many of us. I know that some of us have already learned some of the preterite tense, but for the majority of us, this is brand new. We are moving to a different tense. We are about to start talking about actions that happened in the past rather than actions that happen right now or generally happen, which is what we're used to normally saying. So let's get into it. So, ¿cuándo debo usar el pretérito? When should I use the preterite? You use the preterite tense, which in Spanish is called el pretérito, when you want to talk about things that were completed in the past. Okay? So, this is something we're going to talk about, honestly. In my Spanish 5 class, we still discuss preterite and imperfect. That's actually something that we're going to go into again in Spanish 5 soon. It's not an easy concept. This is not something that I'm expecting you to master right now. We have a project coming up, and I'm going to expect you to have mastered a certain amount of words in the preterite, but it is a difficult concept. So let's look at what I just said. You use the preterite when you want to talk about things that were completed in the past. That is what's very important about the preterite tense. Again, I said there are two different tenses, two different past tenses in Spanish, and the preterite specifically talks about completed actions. So like yesterday, I went to the store. That action's done. It's completed. There's a definitive beginning, a definitive end. I ate an apple at 6 o'clock this morning. Completed action. So in other words, we're not talking about actions that used to happen or were happening in the past tense. We're going to use a different tense for that. All right, ¿cómo debo usar el pretérito? So how should I use it? That's the same question. So just like the present tense, you will add a pattern of endings to the stem of the verb. Okay, so right now we're just talking about the regular ones. And guys, there are tons of irregular ones, irregular verbs in the preterite tense that we will get into really for the rest of this semester. We'll keep kind of adding irregular preterite verbs. But right now we're talking about regular preterite tense conjugations. And remember, what that means when we say that a verb is regular, all that means is that it follows a pattern. Like you can drop the AR, the ER, or the IR, and then add an ending. That's all that means. So let's look at them. So let's look at verbs that end in AR. We're going to look at the verb mirar. So what we've done, we've dropped the, gosh, I really need to get something where I can like write on this. But anyway, we've dropped the AR, and then we've added these endings. These are the endings that you need to write down. These are the endings you need to memorize. You should put them on flashcards. Make yourself a Quizlet if you have to. But I need you to know these endings. The same way that I expect you to know present tense, AR, ER, and IR verb endings, at this point, I do want you to know the endings for these irregular verbs. So let's look. In the yo form, it's e. So miré. Yo miré. I looked at. For the tu form, for AR verbs, it's haste. Tú miraste. You looked at. For él, ella, usted, it's o. Él, ella, o usted miró. So he looked at, or she looked at, or you looked at, because remember, usted is you. It's formal, but we use it in the third person singular. I really hope this is loud enough so I don't have to record it. All right. Nosotros form, it's amos. So miramos. You guys are probably thinking, that's the same as the present tense. You're right. It is the same ending as the present tense. And the way that you are able to differentiate whether or not someone is saying I look at or I looked at is the context of the conversation, the context of the sentence. For the vosotros form, so remember if we were in Spain and we wanted to say you all, hastes is the ending. And if you ever want to remember the endings for vosotros in the preterite, all you're doing is taking the tu form ending and adding is. So vosotros mirastes, so you all looked at. And then for ellos, ellos, ustedes, we have aron, miraron. They looked at, or you all looked at. All right, so in this tense, ER and IR verbs have the exact same ending. So a verb like comer and vivir are going to have the same endings in the preterite tense. Let's look at them. Yo form is I. Tu form is iste. El, ella, usted form is io. Nosotros imos. Vosotros istes. And then ellos, ellos, ustedes is comieron. Or ieron. Sorry, I was giving you the ending. So yo comí, I ate. Tú comiste, you ate. Él, ella, usted comió. He or she or you ate. Nosotros comimos. We ate. Vosotros comistes. You all ate. And ellos comieron or ellas comieron or ustedes comieron. They ate or you all ate. Let's keep moving. All right, so we're not going to heavily get into all of the irregulars here. I'm actually going to probably introduce most of the irregulars in class so we can talk about those kind of in the moment. I don't know that I want to do a video for them, but I am going to give you a couple of exceptions. These aren't really considered irregular. They're really just spelling changes so that we can keep the same phonetic sound. So let's look. So whenever you have verbs that end in CAR, GAR, or ZAR, you have a spelling change in the yo form of that verb. So let's look at buscar. Buscar ends in CAR. It means to search. So instead of saying yo busqué, do you see? So you're trying to make it, let's go back. You're trying to make it have the same sound. Like it's buscar, and then it's an AR verb. We know we want to put an E for the yo form, so you want it to sound like busqué. That's what you want it to sound like. However, we know that if you have a C in front of an E, like you have here, it makes the say sound. So that would actually be busé. So in order to keep the same phonetic sound, you have to change it to QU. Yo busqué. Yo busqué. So it's not really irregular. It's just that you're having to change how you write it to get the sound that you want. So look at pagar, which is a verb that we're going to use a lot for this project. And you're going to use this. So you really should know this because you're going to say, I paid for this, I paid for that. Anyway, pagar, so G-A-R. So instead of saying P-A-G-E, the G in front of the E would make a he sound. So that would be pagué, but that's not what we want to say. The verb's pagar, and we want to say pagué. So you have to change the G to a GU. Okay? And same thing with verbs that end in ZAR. Like, for example, almorzar. Instead of leaving the Z, you need to change it to the C to keep the phonetic sound. So, yo almorcé. So what you need to know and take away from this is that, oh gosh, I hear a fire truck outside. It's like really loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that. So what you should take away is that if the verb ends in CAR in the yo form, you're going to change the C to a QU. If the verb ends in GAR in the yo form, you're going to change the G to a GU. And if the verb ends in ZAR, you're going to change that Z to a C in the yo form. We'll get more practice with that. All right, conjugating reflexive verbs in the preterite. Oh, look, I already have the answers here. Well, that's no good. Let's just look at it then. So to conjugate reflexive verbs in the preterite, you would do the same thing that you do in the present tense. Like you'd follow those 3 steps, and I don't want you to forget those steps. Review those steps. So you're going to do that same thing where you take the say off, you move it to the front, then you conjugate the verb, and then you change the say to the appropriate pronoun. You're going to do the exact same thing. The only thing that changes here is how you're actually conjugating the verb. So let's look at the present tense. Me cepillo los dientes. I brush my teeth. Well, if you wanted to say I brushed my teeth, like yesterday, this morning, whenever it was, me cepillé los dientes. Do you see the only thing that's changing is how you conjugate the verb? You conjugate the actual verb in the preterite tense. So you give it a preterite tense ending instead of a present tense ending. So you still follow all those steps. I hope that makes sense. We'll talk more about that in class. So, me corto el pelo, me corté el pelo. So I cut my hair. Or in the preterite tense, you'd be saying, I cut my hair, past tense. Te lavas las manos, you wash your hands. And then if you wanted to say you washed your hands, te lavaste las manos. Do you see? The only difference that we have here is the actual conjugation of the verb. Se baña todos los días. So here she bathes every day. But if I wanted to say that he or she bathed yesterday, se bañó ayer. All right, I think that's it. I think this is the last slide. Can't wait to practice this in class with you guys. See ya.